True. But I want the puzzle pieces.
Drew, I thought you might be trying to sustain yourself between here and there purely on Metal Gear speculation.
Yeah.
It seems to be coming up every 5 minutes around the office here.
Reading wikis and printing them out and creating a giant, grid on my wall with red lines going from one place to the other.
Yeah.
And
You couldn't even make it through your mic check here without, what was it?
I was talking about
Major Zero?
You said
Major Zero.
I think the word zero, and that spun me off into speculation about the
Talk about
XOF
Cypher.
unit.
And then you said the word cipher, and that started like creaky old gears turning in my head that haven't moved in a while. Trying to remember what that is.
Well, see, the Patriots had a fighting turn. No, the Patriots broke up a little bit, and then at some point, Zero formed Cypher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of a renamed Patriots, but not all of the Patriots.
Wait.
Not all of the original Patriots are in Cypher.
Wait, the Patriots predate Cypher?
Yes.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Philosopher's Legacy.
It's all more than a little fuzzy.
They got half of the Philosopher's Legacy.
Okay.
Then Sokolov had the other half.
What? Oh.
Really?
Or Sokolov had the first half?
Mate?
Volgin
Volgan?
had it.
Yeah.
And it's just money, right?
Yes.
The legacy is just
money
a big
and the
pile
name,
of
it
money?
is money and the names of the Patriots.
Okay.
It is a microfilm containing
the knock list.
account transfer information
See.
and the names of the Patriots.
Okay. And that money is earmarked for...
They were going to use it to try to control the world through control.
Oh,
they
of
were going to
course.
control.
Okay. Nanomachines.
Using the image of Big Boss, the perfect soldier,
Gotcha.
as their means with which to control the population,
Yes.
because
So-
he is so charismatic.
So a bunch of tiny little microscopic robotic big bosses running around inside you.
Now that was how they then later decided to deal with control once nanomachines existed.
Yes. And they all look like big
Patriots.
boss.
The Patriots.
Got it. Okay, it all makes sense now.
And then at one point they were all AIs instead of people.
Aha.
So everybody put Metal Gear Solid 5 spoilers in your
GW.
Didn't they live in the
in
walls
your
of the White
tags
House at one
for your
point?
3DS.
What, the nanomachines?
No, the Patriots.
No, I think that wasn't necessarily literal. I think
Okay,
that was
just
more
kind
of
of metaphor.
Yeah.
Okay.
That the lowly lule low is technically everywhere, right?
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, they're not everything, but they know all.
Yeah.
So much so that sometimes you have to hypnotize yourself to convince yourself that you are someone else to convince them that you are someone else.
Weren't the Lolly Lule Low like an alien race in Star Control 2?
Probably. Yeah. So they were the ladies with the dildo ship.
No.
Naturally.
It was ribbed.
For pleasure.
Uh-huh. I feel like I need to like preload some kind of refresher for the trip up there. Whether it's
there's a great thread on our forums.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, just an info dump?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I'll just load that up in a browser before
Someone linked to a game's radar image gallery.
Oh,
This is how Metal Gear information is being conveyed now. They wrote a 14 image gallery,
Wow.
And the captions actually
Only 14.
recount all of the things that happen in Metal Gear.
14 doesn't even sound like enough for one game.
Yeah, they kind of are. I mean, the images are obviously not important. It's just like they're writing like 3 paragraphs on like here's what happened in this game, like in chronological order. And actually, it was relatively effective. I'm sure, obviously, it leaves out a ton of things.
Yeah.
But it just sounds like they just went and read like a Metal Gear wiki and then condensed it into stuff. And I read that this morning and went like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, it checks out.
I found a site which I think appears to be crowdsourced called MetalGearTimeline.com.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
I've not.
I think it's people contributing to it.
The Patriots killed JFK.
Yes. It starts in 1918 or something like that.
Right,
yes.
because at the end of World War I is when the philosophers
that would make
came
sense.
together.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Their intentions were good.
I only started skimming it, but presenting everything in the Metal Gear canon in chronological order seems like impossible to grapple with. I feel like you need to consume it in the order the games
For
presented
me, it actually put it into context in a way that it was very difficult to get by playing the games in order.
Maybe I should go back and read that whole thing then.
Because when you think about the games, you think about all these weird side roads it goes down of all this nonsense bullshit. But in broad, if you just
they
take
jump
it
around in timelines
yeah, they do.
too, yeah.
And if you just take it in broad strokes and just kind of gloss over some of the hows and whys and just break it down to
This happened.
This is the one thing that this game's writer thing actually does really well. Is it's just like, and then they change sides, and then they double cross this person for this half reason.
Here's what side this guy was on at this point in time.
And also keep in mind, like, half this shit kind of got retconned.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all right, well,
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at the Metal Gear canon.
Yeah, I think the best way to
Sure,
look
whatever.
at the best way to look at the Metal Gear canon is to go like, fucking whatever.
Yep.
I think Kojima is at his most Kojima-y when he is coming up for explanations of why he is retconning something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't just say, like, I changed my mind. It's like, no, man, it was really like this the whole time because of this.
Yeah, there's like this
wow, that's way more
10
complicated.
layers deep of like, what? No, a person's hand can't take over a body. Are you guys crazy? Who would even think that?
Here's what really happened.
Yeah, like fucking Jesus Christ. Oh,
Shit is painful.
like
It hurts when I think about it.
What do you think Kojima thinks about chemtrails?
I think that Kojima invented chemtrails.
He's behind it.
Yeah. He is secretly okay. The philosophers wanted a way to control the population. This is, but then carried forward. The Patriots kind of carrying out that stuff with GW and the AI. At some point, they need a way to distribute the nanomachines to exert control over the populace.
Airborne
Better way than
nanomachines.
airborne nanomachines.
Fuck. We're screwed.
Yeah, and do you just like breathe them in, or do they crawl into your ear?
Yes,
or-
all of that.
Yeah,
all the above.
all the above.
It's
Any-
Rathacon, but even smaller. It's it's all these things rolled together.
Mucous membranes.
Like Animorphs.
Cover them all up.
Exactly like Animorphs.
like Animorphs.
Like the saddest thing about kind of the Kojima, like the Kojima Konami breakup or whatever is happening at Konami and all that sort of stuff is that like Metal Gear is kind of made better because it is so old and there is so much stuff to attempt to tie together
Absolutely, yeah.
that like starting from scratch you could get weird, but there are no stakes.
Right.
So like you almost have to like if you were going to set out to make Metal Gear today, like let's say Kojima were to like get out of Konami, for example, and want to start something new, like it couldn't really be any of that stuff right off the bat. You have to start with a base. You have to start with something. Like the Metal Gear works because like the original Metal Gear is just a military game.
Yeah.
And you kill a robot at the MSX is a little different, but in my Metal Gear, you fight a computer at the end.
Yeah. Shoot a rocket at it.
You do. You do shoot a rocket.
Blow
at it.
that thing up.
Fuck that computer. I hate computers.
And even even the first Metal Gear Solid took itself relatively seriously.
Sure.
Aside from some of the Psychomantis stuff or whatever. Like
Yeah,
it was still,
it got out there
yeah.
in a mystical way.
right, but the core of it was still presented itself as like kind of serious
Stealth action dude.
espionage.
Yeah,
and, yes.
it's like it's the dark truth about Metal Gear that unless they were out there shooting guns and fucking trying to faithfully replicate CQC techniques and doing all the weird simulation stuff that they think they're doing and they work like a fraction of it into the game, but if they weren't doing that, none of the rest of it could matter.
Yeah.
Because all of that groundwork gets laid and like inserted in kind of the craziest spots where just like, oh, all of a sudden it's getting very real.
Yeah.
Like, what? Well, oh, okay. Like it makes you want to go along for the ride to see like how fucked up it gets.
Totally.
I guess.
Yeah. I think it goes without saying we're all very curious.
Yeah. And I'm totally interested in Big Boss.
And
too.
excited.
Like, he's gone through so many different stages,
Yeah.
the absolute villain to almost like a sympathetic character. You play as him, and then I'm presuming this is going to be like the downfall of Big Boss and where he makes his turn.
Right.
So,
But like makes what turn? Because you think about it, like, if this is set in like what 84 or whatever it is, like they're getting close to the time when he has to be working for the American government again because that's the opening of Metal Gear.
true.
As he is technically a good guy again.
I do not want to add to any speculation, but in the trailers that we've seen, there seem to have been different versions of Big Boss.
Yeah. I stopped watching that stuff. I just decided at a certain point I was like, I don't need to see it because I'm going to see it.
Right. Yeah, I've been trying to steer clear, but we did the trailer episode, and that was the first time that I had seen that stuff. But it's trying to shield
one
myself.
of them just a hallucination,
Could be
like that space whale.
or another clone. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't
I'm
know.
your clone.
I actually haven't watched most of the Phantom Pain trailers.
Okay.
Did either of you guys see that launch trailer that came out today? It's the
No.
last one that
I did.
Kojima, for fucking 15 years now, he has been making a big deal out of the fact that he cuts and edits the trailer, masters all the trailers himself, or
really cool.
most of them.
Creative control.
This is the last one that he will ever put together for a Metal Gear game.
It's kind of sad in a way.
Yeah,
Like
I
those
guess.
trailers, like say what you will about trailers overall. Like it's just like whatever. It's fucking marketing material. Who cares?
Yeah.
But like
Those games in particular,
they were exactly. They were events.
Fantastic.
Like they were great, and Konami treated them as such. I mean, they put out fucking DVDs devoted to reactions to trailers.
I bought it.
Yeah, like that's insane.
The MGS2, the trailer DVD.
That's insane. I mean, that's stupid. That's actually stupid.
I mean, they invited people to a theater to show them the first trailer for MGS2.
Yeah, and yeah, no, I don't think any other game can get away with that.
Yeah.
No other franchise. I mean, there are bigger franchises than Metal Gear, but none are crazier, and few have inspired as much kind of like a depth of attachment from players.
Not many of them have the pomp and the swagger and the self-assuredness, you know?
Sure.
The self-confidence.
And say what you will about who makes those games, you know, obviously it's a large team, you know, that goes into it. You don't really want to necessarily like kind of just say like Metal Gear equals Hideo Kojima, you know, anything like that. But, you know, like that's as close, I think, as gaming has gotten to kind of establishing that, you know, auteur kind of relationship to a franchise.
Certainly in the modern era still.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go back to when games were literally made by one person, then yes. But
yeah.
But yeah.
David Cage kind of comes to mind.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I would feel better about those if those games were any good.
Okay,
But that's kind of a...
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Sure. I agree.
Like,
but I mean,
like,
you know...
You're, I guess you're not wrong. But in terms of just like deep emotional attachment to a franchise of games,
absolutely.
where people are just like hanging by a thread for like little bits of information, knowing full well that information may in fact just be misinformation. No one does it like Metal Gear.
Yeah, and I'm just talking more about, you know, people that seem to have like a real firm grasp on like the narrative and, you know, direction of a particular game.
Well, you know, he still portrays himself as, I'm sure he is, the primary writer of all of those games, you know? Like even when you've got like, for instance, like you've got a Fallout and like Todd Howard is sort of seen as the head of that whole project, but there's still a writing staff underneath him that's largely setting the narrative tone there, you know?
Right. I mean,
like, Kojima is literally a like written and directed by kind of guy, you know?
Yeah. Like there's a certain aspect, like obviously, you know, I'm sure Todd Howard has a massive impact on those games in ways that we could never possibly know. But you think about like the way that Bethesda produces games and the size of those teams and stuff like that, and you think that like some part of his role is like herding cats or something like that, you know, like getting all these teams heading in the same direction and that kind of leadership role. Whereas like the impression I always got from Kojima is like he's a legitimate lunatic that has somehow been allowed to make games for all this time, and then someone finally like looked at a balance sheet or walked in and caught him doing something completely insane for the game. Like, we're motion capturing this plant for the next week and a half, and then said, "No, fuck you, get your fucking shit and go."
We're gonna point a fan at it, at different settings, and just let it wave in the breeze.
This rifle, and we're just gonna like shoot these cameras of it. You know, no one's holding it.
Man.
The rifle is just sitting here, but just in case we're missing something, we're mocapping this gun.
How much making of footage do you think made it into that thing?
Into the new one, yeah. I bet there's not much.
Probably not much
at all in terms of extra material or whatever.
I'll sell that separately.
I'd buy it.
I mean, with kind of the fallout between, you know, Kojima and Konami, like I wonder if any kind of making of stuff would ever actually see the light of day.
That's what I was getting at. Like, it's probably just kind of forbidden at this point.
Yeah, you wonder,
locked away in a vault or whatever. That'll be the end of an era, but I think we're all pretty excited about digging into that thing.
Yeah, I hope it just goes out the right way, you know, and that if Konami does decide to make more Metal Gear, which they kind of have indicated they want to, while simultaneously indicating that they don't want to make anything ever. Except money. Like I hope that they, you know, kind of understand what that thing is, because I think other people could do what Kojima has done, and maybe even be a little more fiscally responsible about it. But it's, I don't know.
And he's made a clean break too. Like, he doesn't retain any kind of rights to Metal Gear.
Definitely not.
No.
I would bet money on that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I guess we don't know for sure, but
even if he was
almost certainly say no.
Even if he was parting amicably, which by all accounts he's not.
I'm sure that they would hold on to it.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. But I mean, whatever. You know, like, it was a good run. It was a lot of games. You know,
no joke, man.
Like, he definitely
it was
had
a franchise
time
that like came and went and then came back.
Yeah,
and as a completely different thing, and then they managed to tie it into the first stuff in like a lot of really crazy ways.
Yes. But,
the first Metal Gear Solid is still like one of my favorite games. Snatcher, even like an old Kojima joint. I love.
Yeah, I always wanted to check out Snatcher and Police Knots. Never.
So good. There's a really good English patch for Police Knots.
We should look at this stuff sometime. But
like Snatcher with the Menacer.
Yeah. Sega CD
only with the gun.
Yep.
It's way easier with a controller.
Yeah, totally.
But, like the thing everybody keeps saying about this running up to it is like this is kind of the last slice of time in that whole arc left, right? That hasn't been covered by a game.
I mean, it's getting tighter and tighter.
Yeah,
I guess we don't know enough about the, ending point of Phantom Pain to really say.
Whether you believe he's had all this in his head all along or he's making up it as he went.
Oh, he's making it up as he went.
I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but either whatever perspective you take on that.
Yeah.
He's kind of had the chance to say what he wanted to say, right? Like he's put out a lot of these
multiple times.
So I for one am not heartbroken. Like I feel like it's time for a clean break on both sides.
Yeah, that's the thing is I hope that that they tie it up well enough.
Yeah.
And for as well as you could tie up a Metal Gear.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
Obviously, there's going to be some shit in that game where you're just like, what?
Right.
Johnny Sasaki side stories.
Johnny Sasaki Gaiden.
Yeah.
I'd be really curious to
Johnny
see if you
Sasaki Rising.
Yes. Okay. There you go. All right. Yeah. Let's make him a cyborg. I'll be curious to see if
shits on things.
The rumble down under.
Robot poop.
Yeah. But it's like this explosive blast. It's like a shotgun that just melts robots.
He poops cans of Rockstar.
Metal Gear just runs up, gets ready to launch a nuke, and this whole thing just disintegrates.
Time freezes, and he's just like frantically pulling out toilet paper.
All right, sure,
yeah, it could work.
Do you think there's going to be this divide in the fan base if they do keep putting out like kind of big budget games with the name Metal Gear on them, like the way stuff like Terminator, and people are like, there are no Terminator movies past the second one, kind of stuff, or the Star Wars prequels don't exist, kind of thing. Like, are people gonna are the diehard fans going to draw their line in the sand?
I would be super skeptical
and just be like, there are no more Metal Gear games.
Yeah,
I think it depends on what they do.
Yeah,
Rising is a great Metal Gear game.
Yeah,
right,
but
exactly.
But
it's not necessarily.
I feel like it hasn't been universally embraced. Even
I can't help it if people have bad taste.
I'm not here to comment one way or the other. I know that I see a number of people who say they're not super into Rising. That seem to be pretty big Metal Gear fans.
Rising didn't
really
try to be
like Dan, for instance, has never played Rising.
That's his problem.
Like self-proclaimed biggest Metal Gear fan in the world, doesn't consider that game important enough to consume immediately.
And he didn't play Acid, which people seem to really like Acid.
Right.
I really want to see that.
I pulled out my copy of Acid 2, and I completely forgot they have a 3D stereoscopic mode in that.
Yeah,
it actually comes with a little Google cardboard.
PSP.
Yep. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Oh my god! Wow, yeah, because they would double up the images on the PSP, and you pop those glasses up to them.
Was that the first or the second one?
Second one.
Oh, that game's so weird with the crazy neon colored cell shading. And,
they did cell shading in that one, where the first one's a little more realistic.
Yeah,
neat games. I like.
Yes, indeed. Long and storied history, but there are other games in the world besides Metal Gear.
Thankfully,
where
we all would have lost our mind years ago.
So
if it was
I've heard
just Metal Gear all the time.
God, yeah, seriously. Jeff, tell me about one or more of them.
There's Gears of War. That's another video game.
That also has gear in the title.
Yeah.
Stay on theme here.
Storied